You get back from the conference. Now what? That is what we're going to talk about right now.
Ready or not, here they come. Be sure to visit schoolstatus.com, peachjar.com, nickelstrategies.com, and smore.com. Advocating for public education, sharing our stories and celebrating our schools, students, and staff. From crisis communications to media relations, social media, and everything in between, we're here to give you the best strategies, tools, and techniques to help you help your community. Welcome to the School PR Podcast, brought to you by Peach Jar, School Status, Nickel Strategies, and Smore. Love 'em or leave 'em. Here's your hosts, Matthew Jennings and Ryan Ferran.
All right. You can email the show, schoolprpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, all that fun stuff. Matthew, how are you, sir?
I am fantastic. Still right in the post-conference excitement. How about you?
Doing great. That leads right into our topic today. You go to amazing conference, bunch of sessions, lots of notes, talk to people, network, meet new people. Then you get back, and what do you do? How do you optimize that opportunity you were just given? I feel like a lot of people get back, and then it's kind of forget the follow-up, forget their notes. They're not, all that sort of thing. So I think that's just as important. You do your prep before you go, you're there, and then, how do you plan the next steps, take all that knowledge, and make it a functional plan for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And yeah, I guess it's going to be different for everyone. And I know that a lot of the information is available, especially, this past conference Ryan and I were just at was the Calsbrook conference. I know many of the conferences are being planned with mobile applications now these days, which make presentations available and easy to download. And I highly suggest that if you were in a presentation that was good, that you really connected with, and you had some gold nuggets that you wanted to take away from, definitely download that presentation. Consider starting maybe in a Google Drive, a folder, collect those presentations, note the conference year, and take any docs, any notes that you had, maybe convert those into an electronic file format there as well, right there in that same folder. Some of those gold nuggets so that you know what it was in that presentation that really stood out. And it could be the whole thing. That's fine. But it might be just that one or two things that you really, really want to remember. That's kind of what I did, and I always try to do after conference. And then the other thing is debrief is really important, especially if you traveled with just yourself and you have more team members that weren't able to attend the conference, or if you traveled with multiple team members and you split up and attended different sessions. Debrief is huge. Sit down. It'll also help hold the whole team accountable to ideas and thoughts and processes and new things that you want to maybe get involved with. It'll hold all of you kind of accountable, and sharing that information and sharing that gold nugget and sharing the opportunities through a debrief is huge. This is what I got excited about. This is what I heard. This is what I learned. And it just elevates the entire team, which is great. So those are kind of the two big ones for me.
Once you get back, you really gotta dive in, because if you wait a couple weeks, you're gonna forget kind of a couple nuggets that you didn't write down. So the sooner you get back from your conference, I agree with Matthew. You gotta really have that debrief. If you went with a team, schedule a meeting that first week back. Talk about, okay, what did you learn? What are your golden nuggets? What are we gonna implement here? And what did you think? Because not all sessions, not all advice work for you in your district. And you may hear some things like, I was thinking about this, and run that past your team. Will that work in our community? Because just because it works in one neighborhood doesn't mean it's going to work in another. So I totally agree with that sentiment. And the sooner you do it, the better, because you will forget some of those things, some of those conversations you had in the hallway. You talk to the presenter afterwards, but do that. If you don't have a team, you got to run those things by yourself. Maybe meet with your superintendent and talk about, here's some of the things I learned, I like. Here's some strategies that I'm thinking about implementing. What do you think? And kind of go over all that stuff. And then go through kind of your Rolodex of who you ran into, and then follow up with those people.
Yeah,
some years I'm good with that, and some years I'm not good with that.
Yeah, definitely. And even if it's just as simple as saying, hey, really appreciated getting to spend some time with you. You know, if they're local to you, you know, try to get some time on the books, go to a coffee. It's a nice way to kind of keep that energy and the synergy going as well. And even, you know, one of the things that we often hear at conferences is it's wonderful to be around people that get you and understand your job, right? And so, you know, if you've got somebody local that you've run in here that you've at the conference that you've always trying to be making a connection with, invite them to coffee, invite them to lunch. It's a great excuse for both of you to get out of the office and share some time with somebody that understands your day and how important it is to get out of the office. If they're not, at least just following up, you know, sending an email, sending a text. You know, I'll give a shout out to Diana, Santa Monica, Malibu. I got to spend a little bit more time with her at this conference than I have in the past, you know, and post conference, it was just a quick text. We shared back and forth, just, hey, travel safe home. It was great hanging out, you know? And so, just keeps those lines of communication open. And if you can, try to meet up, try to keep those connections going. They'll save you later. That's for sure.
Yeah. The one thing too, look, budgets are not looking great in most parts of our country. And we're seemingly going to a little bit of a cliff, if not a bigger one. We're not sure, but it's not going in the right direction. So even if you're a team, a one-person shop, I would take your notes, your best practices, write up a one sheet for your superintendent and be like, this is what I learned. This is what I got out of it. This is what I'm going to implement here. I talked to this person. Here's who I'm following up with next week. And really have that follow-up so they know you got a lot out of the conference, and that the next year when you want to go, and maybe there's a second conference you want to go to and budget times are tight, they will understand, and you've proven to them with data that this is a great return on investment. Because really, the conference we went to, CalSPROs, it always is such a good return on the investment. It is a bargain for what you get for the PD, the increased learning, the knowledge, all that. It's a bargain. But when you're just doing basic budget cuts, it's sometimes in districts, the first thing to go is nobody's going to conference and there's no travel. And that is kind of, I don't agree with that philosophy at all, because there could be less important pots of money. So you're saying, and a lot of districts do this, Matt, we're not gonna get better at our jobs anymore.
We're gonna flatline right here.
But that is what boards and superintendents do or are forced to do. And it's like, well, we can stop putting, you know, X amount of money into this fund that is a safety fund for, you know, whatever it may be for 3 years, 4 years down the road. So, but the more you can make your argument from the last conference, it's like when you pass a bond, you can communicate, here's what we're doing, here's a new school opening, here's a new library, because you want to build confidence and let the people know, you know, you've done good things with their money. So if it comes up in the future, they believe in you again. Same philosophy with going to conferences. Your budgets are tight. The more you provide your superintendent the value you got and the value your district got, the better off you are.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. Good call on that. Big time, you know, and following up like that's a huge win. So, and even more important than some of the other things, because the professional development and the networking that you get at these conferences, honestly, I think is completely invaluable. I don't know a price tag to put on it. I know it shaped my career. It certainly got me through some of the hardest times in my career, got me through some of the best times in my career. So that's huge. You know, I'll give you a quick little anecdotal story too. So shout out to Nicole Pichardo. I remember sitting in a session, and you know her, you know this gal well, Ryan, Monica, Pasadena Educational Foundation.
Yes.
I remember sitting in a session of hers years and years ago, and it was just about I think it was just about community engagement, something like that. And she got through her whole presentation, and the second to last slide was her newest initiative to connect with realtors at a deeper level. And Nicole and I, just like what your expression when I said that, Nicole and I looked at each other and like, oh my God, real estate agents. And we both scribbled down, you know, on our notepad at the time, I think I might've had a napkin, go back and figure out how I connect with realtors at a deeper level. And I came back and I filed that away. And then fast forward, I think it was about 4 years later, I ran into it in one of my districts in Oceanside, the need to connect with realtors. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but it came up and I needed to figure this out. I needed to crack the nut. And I remembered that gold nugget. I pulled it out. I didn't remember who did the session, but I pulled it out and I had written the session. I'd written Monica. I'd written where she was. And I reached out to her right away and I said, Monica, I don't know if you remember, you did a session a couple years back. You had mentioned something about connecting with realtors. It was in the first stages and you were going to have like a special event later that month. Can you tell me how it went? She downloaded everything, as one does, which is amazing in our group, shared all of her resources, everything that she did. And I was able to go on and host an extremely successful event there in Oceanside with our local realtors because I came back and filed away a gold nugget that sprouted years later. So definitely figure out how to categorize this stuff and keep it so that you can always go back to it. But what Ryan's saying, going back to the team, specifically your leadership team, sharing what you've learned, sharing the invaluable things that have come of that. I was kind of protective. I want to be a little open here. Sometimes I would come back with good ideas and just be like, hey, I want to go do this. This is my idea,
Yeah.
because I wanted the team to think that I was invaluable and that I had great ideas and whatever else. But don't be afraid. In fact, not just don't be afraid, definitely share with the team, hey, this is something I got from XYZ. This is something I saw another district do successfully that was shared at a conference, and it will help maybe protect the budget some. I mean, we know when school districts cut travel and conferences, it's cut. But, stopping the professional development and the personal growth is never the best thing if you can avoid it. And like Ryan stated, building that case is going to be a big deal. So definitely try to do that.
The real estate thing, I remember for you was huge. I feel like that was one of your most successful campaigns you did. You really made an impact in your district. And that's a great real world experience from a conference that you picked up, you implemented, and it did just awesome things for you and your district and accomplishing exactly what you kind of sought out to do. And if you think you're the first person to steal or borrow an idea and not give them credit, I have a long list of people that have been borrowing from me and not giving me credit.
That one I definitely always credit back to Monica. That was just absolutely brilliant. And she really, truly came through for me on that. Just shared everything top to bottom, start to finish on it. And that was awesome. Another one that I always give credit to is the weekly 1 minute videos, which was Christine Peck in Poway, and I saw what she was doing over there and I was like, God, that's brilliant too. And so I started Oside Week in 1 Minute in Oceanside. And then I brought that to Tustin Unified, and both districts are still doing that. And so it's really cool way to share. If you're not doing weekly videos, man, we can talk, but it's a really great way to share the happenings and the success stories of your students and staff each week in just really short 1 minute videos. But that was another one, that I got, man, the return on that investment, doing those weekly videos, it's a little bit of a lift, especially if you're not great at filming and editing out of the gate. And, you might have a learning curve, but I got it down to, where I'm only spending about an hour a week filming and editing to make a 1 minute video. And the return on that investment was beyond measure as well. And you're right. The realtor certification course was also huge. I mean, that was just a huge win.
Yeah.
And we found out, and I've talked to other districts since now that have implemented it, and what typically happens is they're just kind of out of touch with what the district's doing. Unless they have kids in the district, they don't know. Like I was meeting realtors there that thought we had cut the arts. They thought, they thought we had gotten rid of sports. They had no idea that kids were learning on medical equipment that students learn on in college, at the college levels, that we had career tech pathways, that we had 3D printers. I mean, you should see their eyes were just wide open, just had no idea we were doing all these things in our school district. And your realtors many times can be the first point of contact with your families moving into your district. So it's important for them to bring them in.
Big time. Monica's amazing.
She is.
With the Education Foundation. She's not even with the school district, and she's been coming to Kalispell for years.
Forever.
And Jake, Gail, and myself did a panel about the wildfires and our response, which was really enjoyed doing it. But we had Monica there, just make sure she was there and had her share a bit too, because she just went through it with the Eaton fire as we did. And she is awesome. Another thing that you can do value-wise at the conferences, when you're new to the field, most of you are very scared of the vendor hall. but you should use that as a golden opportunity, as I did this time and always do. When I'm having an issue with, say, a website or this platform or that platform, you go right up to them and say, hey, here's the issue I'm having that hasn't been resolved. And I got to tell you, I had that conversation with somebody that we use, and I got more information and value out of the 5-minute discussion with them, and showed me a couple things than I had in 5 weeks over the phone with other customer support. So you can also bring that back to your superintendent and say, look, I talked to, or if you're considering a vendor or company working with, you can sit down with them and be like, explain more. Let's talk numbers. How's this going to work? So that's another value add. I never walked into the vendor hall early on in the conferences. It was kind of annoying. I thought it was, then you realize you're not at a conference at that rate without the vendors.
Yeah.
And you can get a lot of really good information there. Spent some time at the Peach Jar booth talking to the Keeley and the Peach Jar folks.
Yep.
And another thing about the conferences too, where you can, especially for California and CalSPRA, is I encourage you, and we didn't do it, we were busy this time and couldn't do it, but submit for the awards. Especially in California, where the value for submitting, I think it's still $50. It was $40 for a long time. If you see these other awards organizations, they're sending you they're double, triple, quadruple, 5 times the cost for an award. If you have to pay out of pocket, I would probably pay out of pocket. It's one of those things that brings value to you, your position, because sometimes you're fighting unions in your district about it, but it kind of validates, look, you've done some really good work. It was independently reviewed by another state organization, some professionals in the field. So that is one of those things, if you're thinking, what else can I do value-wise at the conference? Even if you don't go to the conference, you can submit the awards. I feel like that is a missed opportunity if you're not doing that, because I do feel like it validates. And if you have team members in your department, it helps validate them as well.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, the awards is huge. I would just to add on to that, because that's also a brilliant recommendation, Ryan, and really smart. And the other thing to that is it validates your school district and the work that your school district puts into supporting your office and your board of education. Come back and get that on the next board meeting. And I also know that CalSPRA leadership will show up at a board meeting, even present the award in person. So definitely capitalize on that, because that goes back to what Ryan said earlier too, which was really smart about trying to show the value in why it's important to have professional development and these networking opportunities. And when you're winning awards, when you can bring those back to a school district and kind of show that off a little bit to your team too, it just validates the work that everybody's doing, which is great. I will say, let me give you a unique perspective on vendors as well. Yeah, they do definitely contribute thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to conferences. They definitely make it possible. I don't know if y'all know what it costs to do a conference. I know Ryan and I do now. We both served as treasurer for CalSPRA. I just know that the first time I sat in an executive board meeting with CalSPRA and the conference number came up and somebody told me how much the last conference cost, I almost choked. And it's not even my money. I'm not going to get into it. Let's just say it's real dollars, very real dollars. So the sponsors do make that possible. But here's what I want I want to say something very unique about sponsors. I think a unique perspective that I don't know that a lot of people are leaning into. What Ryan said is great if you're shopping around or whatever, wonderful opportunity, or if you just need support or just want to get deeper into what a product can do that you already have. Conference time, awesome time to do that. Everyone there wants to talk shop. Everyone there wants to talk to you. What I will say about the vendor row, because I've been on the other side of things too, and I've walked through there with blinders on. Nobody is there to eat you, right? Like nobody's going to chew you up or kill you. It's all good. Like everybody's there to support the work that you do. And the more that you talk to them, the more they understand the work that you do. So it's really good to share your lived experience with the vendors as well. That helps them. But here's the unique perspective I want to just throw out there. If you're new and this is a first time conference for you, or you're still new in the field and you just don't have a lot of people or you don't have a large network, get in to Vendor Row, find yourself someone like someone at Peach Jar, right? Or like a Keely or a Matthew, and just say, hey, I'd love to build some deeper connections here while I'm at the conference. Is there anyone you can introduce me to, or is there anyone I should meet? I promise you, we know where the party's at. We know where the group's going. We know where people are going to be. We know who the movers and shakers are. We know who will take you under their wing. We know who will invite you into the spaces, and we will connect you with those people. It's one of my most favorite things to do, in fact, at a conference, is to bring new people into the group and bring new people into meeting those experiences and other people. And I will say that one of my first conferences, the Peach Jar team, in fact, was the crew that brought me in the fold and introduced me to so many people. And at that time, I was looking around the room and I was seeing like Dan Thigpen and Trinette Marquis and Heather McGowan, like, Jim DeRico and all these Kendra, all these names of people that I had seen in the email listserv, and I just knew were doing like crazy work at the state level and like just were legends. And I was terrified. I wasn't going to talk to any of those people, but I got taken in by a very couple of specific people at Peach Jar, and they were like, dude, we need you to meet some folks. And they had me running around with the crew that whole night, that first night. And after that, it was off to the races, and I had friends the rest of the conference, and I had friends now for a decade later, over a decade later. I was trying to do the math. I think it was 15 years ago was my first conference.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah. So 15 years later, I've got friends all over the state of California. And I can tell you right now, it was because I was open to the possibility of being vulnerable with one of the vendors there on Vendor Row. And they took me under the wing and helped me network. So if that's something you're interested in, just tell them, hey, I'm also here to network. I want to meet some people. If you've got any ideas, experiences, or anything's happening, I'd love to be included. And they will definitely do that.
That's great advice. And you're probably the best person to do that too. If you're in California, or actually Matthew's all over the country. So if you're at any Sprung, you see Matthew, go up to Matthew and be like, who are some of the people that I should be talking to? I should be following on LinkedIn and social media. I was talking to Lauren, who works with me, who's amazing, and some of a couple newer people in the field. And I was like, go up to that person. I'll introduce you to this person. This person does amazing work. And so I gave them a list of people, and they were so appreciative, but it's like, I just saved you so much time. The other thing you said about the vendors is interesting, which I really appreciated. The vendors at CalSPRA have always been really good. And for vendors, I don't know how many vendors listen to this, but integrating yourself and going to the sessions and learning more about what we do. Because some, you didn't work in education, you're going from startup to startup. But if you integrate yourself in the sessions, learn about the field, learn about our issues, and you're next to us in the sessions, you're having dinner, like that's how you build those genuine relationships. And you're actually wanting to learn what the school PR pros needs are, kind of what's the next level. So Peach Jar has always been amazing about that. I still tell the story of Peach Jar from one of my first conferences. Joe Farage, who is no longer at Peach Jar, but he was one of my first buddies along with Tabassum, who's been there and it's been amazing. But they were so low pressure sales. You learn to trust them. But they were in sessions. They were asking the right questions. It wasn't about, telling people all about their product. It was, so what are you dealing with in a district? What are your needs? And like, how do you do that? And it wasn't like, oh, I have the solution for you. They just wanted to, they just wanted to learn about it. So it's good advice. And so, but when you're new in the field, you just stay away from there. But you're right. It's a mistake. The sooner you go there. And so I had a conversation with a current vendor we use, and then a future vendor that we're considering. So it was awesome. I got so much value out of that. Cool. It's easier. We don't have to set up a call. Our meetings match. We don't have to do a Zoom. We're in person. And then there's 3 other people there from the team that I can talk to. So it was super valuable in that regard.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I don't think, I think we covered a lot here post-conference. I
think it's
think of any other tips. Yeah, I agree. I would think it's just as important as any other phase. You're going into conference planning, figuring out your schedule and all that we talked about. Then we talked about at conference and post conference. It's not just just race off and forget it and go right back to the grind. It's equally as an important part of the process as the actual attendance.
Yeah, I think it really is. And I have a little saying in my internship, opportunity optimization. So you get this opportunity, but how do you optimize it?
Yeah.
So if you're at, I tell the interns, if we're going to a journalism day, we're getting sessions, at USC or something, go up to the professor, the teacher afterwards, after your session, just like I would advise people if you're going to a conference, go up to the presenter afterwards, introduce yourself, exchange contact, optimize that opportunity. If you just walk out of the room, you're not networking, yeah, it's a good opportunity, but you're not optimizing it. Take those small steps and really optimize your opportunity. And this post-mortem after the conference is how you can 10x your learning and your value and going to future conferences. So I think it was good information for people.
Yep. Brilliant. Absolutely. Yep.
All right, brother. Check out our amazing sponsors. Speaking of partners and vendors and companies, Peach Jar, of course, Nickel Strategies. I'm going to post a webinar we just did with them very soon. S'more and School Status, all very good people trying to help us in the school PR field and learn more. So please give them an opportunity and chance as well. And until next time, keep telling those stories. Matthew, great to see you as always.
You as well. All right. See you, everybody.
Be sure to follow the School PR Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and X, where you can find additional resources and highlights from the show. Please like, subscribe, and all the fun stuff. And most importantly, without our sponsors, this podcast doesn't exist. Please visit schoolstatus.com, peachjar.com, nickelstrategies.com, and s'more.com. Until next time, keep learning, inspiring, and making a difference. Thanks so much for your support of the School PR Podcast.